So my name is Dan Brook. I'm going to be speaking to you about developments in AI, definitions, limitations, and the possibilities of what is possible. For those of you that have known my past and known me in the past, then it's not a question of Dan used to work with machine learning 13 years ago. What's Dan been doing that's technical since that point? It is a look at how AI has developed and is useful for business now. Okay, so that's what we're going to be talking about, how AI fits with your business now. First of all, I'm going to start with some definitions. Just if you're not used to the definitions around AI, then it'll be helpful for you to understand. Obviously, the first one I have to deal with is artificial intelligence itself and what it actually means. Effectively, it's a theory and development of computer systems able to perform tasks normally requiring human intelligence, such as a visual perception or speech recognition, decision making, and translation between languages. That sort of leads me on to talk about machine learning, which I mentioned at the beginning, which I worked on a very advanced form a few years ago. Machine learning is the development of a computer system that can learn and adapt without following explicit instructions. It uses algorithms and statistical models to do this. And effectively, you can give it any set of data and it will work out the characteristics of that and be able to make decisions based upon those characteristics. Next, there's one that does get talked about occasionally, but it's never used greatly, but it's really useful to understand. It sort of forms that bridge, and that's deep learning. This is a type of machine learning based on artificial neural networks. And these neural networks have many layers of processing that's used to extract progressively higher level features from the data. So I mentioned there neural networks, obviously. Neural networks are a computer system that's modeled on the human brain and nervous system. I was lucky enough to see a lecture by a notable developmental biologist and how the research into neural networks has gone full circle, and that whilst developing neural networks based upon biological developmental biology, it's now possible to use neural networks to feed back into that developmental biology to create even greater advances in developmental biology. Next, I think we probably come to probably one of the most important definitions that people probably don't understand the significance of when we see it when referred to artificial intelligence, and that's natural language processing. So this is the application of computational techniques to analysis and synthesis of natural language and speech. And it's this particular analysis and breaking up of language that allows these human-like responses that we see from the different parts of AI that we see now. Finally, in the sort of definitions, I'm going to come to the GPT element. So ChatGPT. GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. And this is a series of neural network models that effectively were the key to the advancement in artificial intelligence. And they use this transformer architecture to respond in a human-like way. This was developed created by OpenAI in 2018. So you can see it's been around for a little while, but actually it's taken some time to develop into the stage that it's actually in now. So I guess the next question is, how did we get here? Why would we suddenly have this explosion in AI tools over the last 12 months? Well, I mentioned the OpenAI ChatGPT introduction in 2018. Why was that introduced? Well, actually, it's from a series of discoveries that have been made since 1950. Alan Turing wrote a paper entitled Computing, Machinery and Intelligence. In that paper, he proposed a test to evaluate the ability of computers to communicate in a human-like way. And so ever since that point, there's been a test, and we've been evolving the way that AI tools can communicate with humans and becoming more and more human in their communication. So what's the impact of all of this advances in artificial intelligence? Well, if we look, and hopefully this is recognizable to some of you, if we look at the traditional data triangle that we've all hopefully seen before, we start with data being amalgamated into information, typically by information technology in a standard office, that then is given to a human who then infers knowledge from the information that they've gained from the large data set. And then once they've gained this knowledge, they're then able to have wisdom about the actions that they choose. And when we think about wisdom, I'm specifically talking about the ability to use your experience and knowledge in order to make sensible decisions or judgments. And it's useful to use and bear that definition in mind when we think about wisdom. So, since the introduction of AI, well, it's disrupted the standard model of data transfer, if you like, that we see within this triangle. It still starts with a data set, albeit probably an even larger data set. But actually, with AI, it skips those other points. There's no human interface with the information technology to give us the knowledge. It actually just skips straight to wisdom. We skip straight to that ability to be able to make decisions based upon experience. And actually with AI, it also allows us to make take actions based upon the wisdom that we have. And that's an immediate effect now. So we know a little bit about AI, but actually we haven't talked about how this can be of any use to you and your business. Well, what I would like you to have an idea of is how to start your journey through AI if you haven't used it yet, and to get the best out of it. And the key starting point is to start with the question, what do I want to do? There's seemingly an exponential influx of AI applications available to you, and to get started, my suggestion is definitely, what do you want to do? Don't just go and try to use any application and then try and bend it to fit your purposes. What's better to do is really understand your needs, talk to us if you need, understand your needs, and then pick the tool that's right for your needs. Another point to add here is I always advise trying, if there's a free version of the tool that you think might work, try that free version first. And then if it works, then you can use the paid version if it gives you more that you want. Okay, so when you're thinking about the questions of what do I want, your questions can be as simple or as complex as you like. It really depends on what you want to do. But there will be tools to help you, and obviously Guido Scientific are here to help you as well. An example of the type of simple question you might have is you may have a new product or service and would like to create a marketing campaign and copy to help create a launch calendar. It could be that you want to find cost savings or time savings in processes, and you would like to analyze them in a smart, lightweight manner. Or even you'd like to develop a new product and you think, how can we do this? Contact us if you have any questions, you have a project that you would like to work with, we're more than happy to help. So I'm going to go through a couple of basic tools that are a really good gateway into AI and understanding what's possible. On the left-hand side, there are the gateway applications I'm going to talk about. On the right-hand side, there are a similar set of applications, but they've got their free versions and their paid-for versions, and so you can see if you would like to use one of them, which one you can choose, either the paid-for version or the free version. So let me turn back to the list on the left-hand side. I'm going to talk through the applications that are there. I'm thinking most people will probably recognize the top one. It's the icon for OpenAI. They have several applications that you can use. The most notable one of which, and the one I'll touch on probably the most today, is ChatGPT. Next come two applications that really are almost ubiquitous in people's use now, and that's Canva and Grammarly. Canva has an AI ability to create a photograph based upon your textual input. And Grammarly, if for all those that have Grammarly already, Grammarly works in virtually every application you have, analyzes what you're saying, corrects spelling, corrects grammar, that sort of thing, and also can help you phrase your copy in the way that you would like to do. So if you want to be confident in the style of your prose, then you can use Grammarly to infuse confidence into the prose. The next two on the list are quite different, and they offer different aspects of the sort of AI journey. The bottom one, Synthesia, this one allows you to create an AI avatar of yourself or of different designs, and together with another AI allows you to actually even recreate your own voice. So if for example, I didn't want to do this live and speak directly to you, I could create an avatar that looks like me, sounds exactly like me, and would say exactly what I typed into it in form of text, and it would then sound exactly like me. It's a really easy tool to start getting to use. There's a free start on it. If you're interested in that, I recommend having a go with it. Next, we come to the one in the middle, TensorFlow. Now, this one's a little bit more of a well-established AI. This one's been around for quite a while. It effectively allows you to analyze anything from a set of data. And there are all different tools associated with TensorFlow. So, for example, the ability to view, pick out the images of just yourself in your whole iPhone photo reel, that sort of relies on the type of technology that TensorFlow have developed. It will analyze the data and then pull out all the images that you're in. I've used a different example to show you today where I've looked at a set of data and I've asked TensorFlow to go and find the anomalies in that data to show me them, and so I can gain decision points around the data that it's showing me. So those are the easy to use apps, if you like. Next, we're going to go on. We're going to start to look at examples of how we can use it in practice. Now, this first one is a really simple example, but there's a couple of things that will go into a little bit more detail around AI and how it works. So the example I've shown you, there is a small piece of text next to the example one, and that is the prompt that I put into ChatGPT. I effectively said, generate some copy for a new microscope. And it created the whole list of prose on the left-hand side, which was far too much for me to use as a tagline or anything like that, or in a social media post. So actually, I then just added to the prompt, that is 20 words long. Okay, so I ran the same prompt and I've got the text that you see on the right-hand side. Now, the important thing to know here is that ChatGPT can do that, and is also to understand how it does that. So the words, it breaks down into what are called tokens, which are used in the natural language processing. Now, a token can be either a whole word, it can be part of a word, a syllable, for example, or it can be some other more complex linguistic part of a word. But what these language models do is they keep a vocabulary of these tokens, and they have a predictive value associated with that token as to what token comes next. And therefore, when I say convert that text on the left-hand side to only 20 words, it can then start to respond because it has the text that it started with, and then knows the tokens that it's going to use to create those 20 words on the right-hand side. Okay, so there's a sort of key thing there, an understanding that everything that's generated by these systems is effectively based around these tokens, if you like. And actually, when you look at the costs involved in different programs, they typically talk around about tokens and processing time. Okay, so that's a basic understanding of how they work on a practical basis when you're just talking to ChatGPT and it's understanding the text that you're putting in. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through 3 examples that use different applications that we've already talked about, but also to show you how quick and easy it is to use these tools and really get the best out of them for your business. The first one I'm going to go through is the sort of classic marketing campaign. Really, really quick and easy to use. If you are involved in marketing, then it's the easiest thing to do. Equally, you know, when I was talking to my colleagues earlier, there's a ability here that a sales person who knows they've got a new product coming up and wants to organize a series of meetings with their best customers around this new product, they could also generate a campaign using these skills very, very quickly and easily without having to spend too much time on it. So with that said, let's get on to the examples. So as I said, the first one's classic marketing campaign. Now you can see a series of images that I put on this slide, the top right-hand one being the initial prompt. The initial prompt being create a Marcom campaign to raise awareness for Guido Scientific's upcoming webinar in 2 weeks' time, the 25th of August, that's going to cover who to hire for scientific sales. And there should be a couple of posts prior to the event. And that almost immediately comes up with a campaign of posts to use prior to the event on the 25th that is shown on the left-hand side. Then, and I haven't shown this prompt, but it's really simple. I don't even need to tell it anything else. All I need to do is say, create the LinkedIn post for the week 1 teaser, which is the very first part in the Marcom campaign that it said. That week 1 teaser is then created on that bottom right-hand image there. It's got some icons in it that I wouldn't personally use. And it's got one repetition of text in it that I wouldn't personally use. But other than that, that's good to go. You can copy that straight out. I always recommend taking it through text notepad because it removes some of the formatting. And then you can post it straight into however you're going to post it. In this instance, we're going to post it on LinkedIn. So we then think, well, I'm going to post in LinkedIn. I've got the text. I'd like an image to go with it. Now, what we can do is we can then say to ChatGPT, create a prompt that I can use in the application called DALL-E, which is an art creating AI, also brought to us by OpenAI, create a prompt that I can use in AI that sums up the teaser campaign that you've just printed out. Then it created the response that you can see in the top right to that prompt, which was actually quite a long prompt. And my experience in using DALL-E is that that doesn't really work. But what it did was it told me that actually the best thing to do is just to create a very simple prompt that says, draw a continuous line drawing that visually captures the anticipation and curiosity. That then creates the image that you see on the left-hand side, which then I both pasted the text and the image into the LinkedIn post, scheduled that for next Tuesday. Why next Tuesday afternoon in particular, do you ask? Well, that's because I put in ChatGPT to when was the best time to capture the attention of professionals involved in marketing and be interested in the session that we've got to put out there. And so within the matter of 3 to 5 minutes, I've created a LinkedIn post that is ready, available, and it'll hit all of you guys next week. It takes no time at all. One thing I should point out here is that if the images that it creates are not very good, then you do still pay for them, and so it's good practice once you've honed your skills in the prompt that you want and you're happy with the artwork it's creating. Probably use that as a framework for your future posts. Okay, so there's the marketing example. Let's now move on to the coding example. So this is a really simple coding example. I'm going to stress that fact because actually you cannot replace coders entirely with this, but actually you can really speed up the work. And actually, if you want to do simple things, then that's highly possible too. Right. So I'm very keen on cooking. Very keen on cooking indeed. I cook all sorts of different recipes. I get the recipes from all sorts of different places. And I even run a cooking blog on it. However, I don't historically use cups in my cooking. And that's because in Europe, we don't historically use cups. So in my mind, I'm thinking, well, it would be useful to have something that gives me a conversion from cups to milliliters, and give me the ability to change it so that I can change it, the number of cups, and I can see instantly the number of milliliters. And so that's effectively what we've done. I created a simple prompt that I then typed into GPT, which is what you can see at the sort of top left hand there. Write some code that will upload to a website that allows a user to convert measures in cups to that of milliliters. The interface should use the scroll bar and automatically update. And when the scroll bar is moved, the scroll bar can move between 0 and 5. The number of cups should be displayed as the scroll bar is moved, and the equivalent milliliters should be dynamically displayed as a result below. I'd like the graphic of a cup filling up dynamically as the scroll bar is moved. And that's it. Within 30 seconds, you can see the HTML code on the right-hand side of the slide that it's generated. That can then just be embedded in a web page, and immediately I've created the usable graphic that allows me to move and automatically calculate cups to milliliters. So it's really, really easy and quick to create coding solutions that are relatively complex. Okay. Next. So for those of you who know that one of my other interests are stats to do with football, and particularly I have downloaded all of the stats associated with the FIFA 2022 players. And I thought, I know what, I'll analyze these using TensorLite. Really easy to use tool. So it's an add-in that you can add straight into Google Sheets, for example. And once you've added it in, you simply select it from the drop down, which you can see in the top right hand corner. The drop down then gives you a series of analyses that you can do. They can go from more simple ones to more advanced ones. In my instance, I picked out abnormalities, and I wanted to find abnormalities in work rate for all of the FIFA 2022 registered players based upon certain attributes that they have that are recorded in this data set. So, for example, pace, shot power, all of those sorts of things. I wanted to make an analysis to show me any abnormalities associated with work rate based upon all of these other variables. And it's really as simple as just picking the variables you want and the one that you want to do the analysis on. And that's what you can see in the bottom right hand corner. It has, on the left hand column, it has a series of numbers between 0 and 1, and they show increasing towards 1 an abnormality in the data of the predicted value, which is the data next to it. So it's given a predicted value it would expect based upon those characteristics, and on the left-hand side, a level of abnormality associated with it. So the one that is highlighted is actually Harry Kane, and he has come out as predicted as high medium work rate, and actually in real life his work rate is measured as high, and so it's detected that as an abnormality. So you can see really quickly and easily you can start to use data in this way and actually do analyses. So imagine here you have analyzed a particular process and you're getting a spread of values, and you think, okay, I would like to know where the abnormality is. This allows you to do it very quickly and easily. Right, some of the limitations. Now, the main limitation is garbage in is followed by the old adage, garbage in, garbage out. It really is as simple as that. ChatGPT is, for example, a chatbot that is, as I mentioned earlier, a generative pre-trained transformer. So if we break that down, we're looking at the keyword there is pre-trained. So it's not continually learning, which means the responses are limited to the data set at the time that it was cut off as of the learning time. Okay, so for example, ChatGPT-4 goes up to September 2021 in terms of the data that it's got as a training set. Okay, now we're going to go back into the tokens to understand a little bit about some of the problems that we can have as well. So, as mentioned, the bot uses language models and a vocabulary made up of tokens. These tokens are then used for the natural language processing. The transformer reads these tokens in the training set and assigns a predictive value to those tokens, as I mentioned before. So it has an idea. Each time it uses a token, it has an idea based on what's gone before it, what the next token should be. So this is based upon this probability of tokens. And if the data set that it is using is small, then the data that has been put into the training set is going to have more of a bias on the response or the predictive tokens that have come out. So if you think of a data training set that has a subject in it that has a particular response on the internet that's strong, for example, then when you do a search using the generative model, it's going to give you a response that is biased by the tokens that are associated with that additional response that you wouldn't normally get if you ask someone, another human. Okay. Next, I'm going to come on to hallucinations. These are AI hallucinations, nothing to do with human hallucinations. Right. From my experience, I can't say enough about these because you will find out yourself when using AI that at some point you'll want to launch your laptop into space with frustration, and at worst, it can affect your mental health. For those of you that haven't used AI or don't know, a hallucination is when the generative transformer that you're using produces an answer that seems to be based on nothing that you've already been speaking about, or is actually just completely wrong. And when this happens, it can be really difficult to get the conversation back on track. My advice is never to ask the chatbot questions that have too many complex elements in a response that you're asking for one question. Break it down into several questions. Write your questions down so that if you get lost at any point as well, you can then always return to the point where it either crashed or a hallucination occurred. If you're struggling with prompts, i.e. the prompts aren't giving you the right answers you're expecting, and you don't think it's a hallucination, best thing is to ask GPT itself, how can you give me the best answer, the best prompt to get this answer I want? So you ask ChatGPT to do the hard work, you don't have to do it. And then use that prompt on it, and it'll give you the answer you want, hopefully. In terms of mental health, it's important that you do follow advice to take regular breaks, as you will find yourself getting more and more. The more you use it, you'll find yourself getting more and more frustrated at interacting with the chatbot, as it seems as if it was a frustrating human. It really is. It can be. Because the interaction is so human-like, it feels like you're dealing with a very frustrating human. If you're using a bot to create code, then please save your files regularly and be ready to go back to the previous version when and if a hallucination occurs. Yeah, those are the main limitations there. So some of the advanced tools. Let's have a look at some advanced tools. Right, the first one I'm going to talk about is AutoGPT. Use this at your peril. On the face of it, it's a fantastic tool, but it has some really unpleasant habits. AutoGPT is a tool that will not only, when you ask it things, will not only tell you how to do something, but if you say go ahead, it will actually then go and do that thing for you. So it will create its own programs and those sorts of things. So instead of having to write text and then transfer it into a development environment, it will go and write its own Python file, for example. However, use it at your own peril, as I mentioned before, with the limitations. The unpleasant habits I'm talking about are it doesn't tell you everything that it's doing sometimes, and actually sometimes it'll just delete all the files that you've been working on. So it's essential that you keep a backed up copy. If you're working with AutoGPT, it's essential that generally that you use it for smaller things, because at the moment it can't handle bigger projects. That'll change over time, but at the moment it can't handle bigger projects, and use it with caution. Next, I want to talk about an entry that from James's book on sales called Sales Disc, and it talks about the ability to use technology to reduce the effort of selling. And a great example of this could be the introduction of a chatbot that's trained with your specific information. So imagine replying to tenders with a cut and paste function from your own chatbot that answers those questions based to the current tender based on your previous winning submissions. All right. And it can also amalgamate supporting information and documentation that you may have for those submissions. So it's a pretty cool tool. And I'm actually going to show you one working in a second. First of all, I'm going to sort of explain a little bit about it so that you actually understand what's happened if you haven't seen one of these before. The really important bit is you still have that ability to talk with it in a human-like manner. Okay, so I'm still going to be asking it, human-based questions. I'm not having to change the way that I speak to it to get a response in the way that I would expect. The second thing is that although it can talk to me using natural language processing rules, it is trained on my specific data set. So if it's my documents that I have for my tender submissions that have previously been successful, or in the example that I'm going to show you, it's a set of terms and conditions available from different institutions in the UK. And I'm going to ask it questions around those terms and conditions. And hopefully you'll see that actually in terms of getting information and all that amalgamation, it's a much quicker way of doing it. So as I said, the institutions I'm using, they're all freely available. You can download them from the web. One of them is the UK long form terms and conditions, which is a document that I think I was 206 pages long PDF document. So you get an idea here that we're looking at documents that are really long. We know what legal language looks like, and so any tool that can help us in this aspect is probably quite a good one. So let's take a look at this now. Hopefully you can see that on my screen now. I've got a prompt that I'm going to give it. So typed in the text and now submit it. What's happening is the language model's reading my text, breaking it into tokens, and then creating the token set that it thinks most likely answers that question based around the training set that it's been given, the 5 sets of terms and conditions. So here I'm worried that I may be delivering some goods to Warwick University and they're going to be late. I've got a set of terms and conditions in place, and I want to know what the implications are and what clauses might be an issue. And hopefully you can see now that it's come back in a reply that clause 7.4, clause 7.6, clause 7.7 and clause 7.81 refer to late delivery, and they give the text around those clauses. So I know I can immediately go to clause 7 and read through there and understand the penalties that might be in place for that one. Let's just do one more, just so you get a real idea of how powerful this is. So remember, I talked about the government terms and conditions. Well, now I'm interested, is there what are the costs associated with a claim from the government for contract breach based on their terms? And we can search this 206-page document using, again, the natural language that I've been asking the question with, and in a very short space of time, it comes back with the fact that the government can claim the cost of making other arrangements and any additional expenditure incurred by the government throughout the remainder of the contract period. And that's stated in condition, which is a clause in this instance, 4.1. So you can see very quickly it's possible to create a very powerful tool that allows you to interact and pull information very specific to either your business or your sales process or whatever it may be. Okay, so we've looked at some advanced tools. Let's now have a brief think about the future. So I think one of the main things that concerns people at the moment are the ethical and moral dilemmas around using AI. There are issues with AI bias, and we talked about how AI bias can come in. We know about the potential impact on jobs. Certain companies are already not employing staff as they are leaning on AI tools to reduce the number of staff that they require. It's really important that we understand the implications of AI within our business. That said, we're at the stage where we were with the internet, for example, and they were early adopters of the internet, and eventually that technology just became ubiquitous. And we know that once we go into a future where the models aren't limited and they become continuously learning, who knows where this is going to take us. But we do know, like the internet introduction, it will become all pervasive. And so it's a really good time now to look at how you can use it in your business, and what tools you could use and benefit from already. So I've talked about a lot of different things in a short space of time, but it's probably important to know that people are really starting to look at the benefits of this. In fact, in July 2023, so last month, 2 MIT economics students conducted a study of 453 professionals, and they found that people who used the ChatGPT for writing classes, such as producing press releases, short reports, or analysis of plans, they took 40% time less to finish their tasks. There was a control group, and they were encouraged not to use AI. The professionals were then scored by their peers, and on average, the ones in using the AI scored 18% higher than those in the control group, i.e. the ones that didn't use AI. So we're starting to see that there's qualitative data associated with the use of ChatGPT in the office environment and in white-collar work. Hopefully, that's given you a nice sense of what is AI. And I guess the final question for you is the question I go back to at the beginning is, what do you want to do? How can we help you? We can help you, but the only way we can do that is if you already have an idea of what you would like to improve, or if there's something new that you would like to implement. Then you can then look at the AI tools around it and understand exactly what's possible. So I'm just going to finish with a short advertisement. For a couple of weeks' time, we're Gado Scientific are running a webinar on who to hire in your sales team, and that should be a fascinating webinar. And also James's book on sales that he has written is available via Amazon, Audible, and Apple. And with that, I'd like to thank you and open it up, see if there are any questions.